Nebergall present us with the proposed fiscal year 24 street maintenance program.
All right, thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'll be able to go fairly quickly through this because I think most of you have seen kind of the background material. But the city each year puts together a street maintenance program which touches our entire city. So I get phone calls and saying, well, you're only focusing on this side of the city or you're focusing on that side of the city. No, we try to touch the entire city. So I'll start with, we put our program together. We start with, let me show you. We start with a computer software package called MicroPaver, and we use that to establish a street rating for each street segment within the city. We typically do that once every couple years. In the past, we said we did it every year. Lately, it's been about every 2 to 3 years. Kind of an interesting new technology that's come about lately are actually data collection vehicles that you can actually pay the company to drive the streets. That's what Kansas City uses. That's not something that we've explored, but might be something we explore in the future to speed up the data collection process instead of a staff member going out and saying, okay, we've got this kind of failure. It's just a very time-consuming process for one person to rate every street segment. But what we do is we go out, we do that, we put that information into the software. It spits out a rating from 0 to 100, 100 being a perfect pavement, a 0 being a completely gravel road, I guess, a failed pavement. And from there, we use that to make our street maintenance program. Now, that is not the only number we use. We take a look at a lot of factors. Like I said, we look at the geographic location, we look at traffic volume, we look at type of maintenance techniques because it's much cheaper to rehab, let's say, a street without curb and gutter than a street that has curb and gutter and sidewalk. Because we typically, when we do an overlay, we repair the damaged curbs, we update the sidewalks where we can, and then we update the ADA ramp. So it's a matter of making the dollar figures fit to put a street maintenance program together. So we still kind of stick with the 3 primary maintenance techniques: intermediate maintenance, mill and overlay, and full depth replacement. Intermediate maintenance is like a seal. You're trying to preserve the pavement as is. That can include slurry seal, microsurface. Crack sealing is an intermediate maintenance. Next is mill and overlay. That's where we take the top 2 inches and then basically put a new asphalt down. And then full depth replacement is we tear out the street all the way to the dirt and we build it back up. So now you'll kind of see some pictures of each type of maintenance. Obviously, I just discussed intermediate maintenance. Typically, in Gladstone, we use a microsurface, which is kind of a beefed up slurry seal from years past. It goes down wet, dries, and cures in a short time period, and then we can open the roadway to traffic. And that is typically done, like I said, to preserve the life and extend the life of the pavement, so it's a preservation technique. Next is the mill and overlay. Again, remove the top 2 inches, restores the pavement surface, and restores some of the structural integrity to the pavement. So if the roadway's got subgrade issues, which is basically the underlying asphalt and basically the dirt below it, sometimes we have to go in and do some full depth patch before we do an overlay. But this is probably our most common maintenance technique. We don't have any full depth this year. However, full depth, like I said, is just building it from the ground up, basically a whole new pavement section. So next you see a curve there. This is kind of the pavement deterioration curve. Basically what this is saying is for $1 spent on intermediate maintenance, you save $5 in mill and overlay, and then $5 if it gets to full depth. So, and it truly is a factor of 5. I mean, right now, intermediate maintenance is between $3 and $4 a square yard. Mill and overlay is between $12 and $15 a square yard, and then full depth is around $60 a square yard. So it truly is a factor of 5 going between the different maintenance techniques. Last year, we did about 16 lane miles of overlay. We didn't do any microsurface. And if you recall in your packet last week, we're going to make a change this year to try to not pave so late in the construction season. So in the past, what we would do is during one fiscal year, that would be the spring, we would do concrete. And then as soon as July 1 started, then we would do mill and overlay. Back when we did the Pleasant Valley Road project and we were kind of saving up for that project, we kind of put everything into one fiscal year, which meant that concrete wasn't starting until July 1st, which means it's not getting done until around September 1st. And then when you're doing $1 million worth of mill and overlay, that work is pushing out later and later in the construction season. And once the temperatures drop below 40 degrees, at that point you're not paving every day. You're just kind of, you're watching the weather forecast and hoping you get a warm day to pave. So this year, fiscal year 23, since we had such a large program with the ARPA funds and some other things, what we're proposing to do is actually just push that intermediate maintenance back a couple months into next fiscal year, which allows us to award the concrete earlier, which we did 2 weeks ago. That way we can get started on our concrete and have it done by July 1st and start our 2-inch overlays shortly thereafter. There's other reasons that that's beneficial. I mean, we can kind of work around school schedules. I mean, once you get into September, if you're working in the vicinity of a school, you're obviously impacting their traffic. So there's lots of reasons why the spring concrete, the mill and overlay in the summer, early fall is better than the way we've done it the last 4 or 5 years. So last year we did about 16 lane miles of overlay. In fiscal year 24, we're looking at doing 12 lane miles of overlay and 12 lane miles of microsurface, so 24 lane miles throughout the city. The total cost of this year's program, that number is actually a little bit higher than the $1 million. We have $1 million that's basically budgeted in our transportation sales tax, and then the city actually got another $150,000 from Mark that transportation funds came to the region, and so Mark is putting together a regional mill and overlay program. So the amount of money we got was based upon population, so we got about $150,000 for that, and Mark is handling the bidding and award of that. So those streets will be done this summer as well. So next you can see the map. I know it's difficult to see from your seat, but there's also a list in your packet. What I've tried to show is a couple different things. I tried to show what we did last year, and we had a very large program last year. It allowed us to catch up a little bit as far as our street maintenance. That's what's shown in red. For fiscal year 24, that's shown in green. And then that's mill and overlay. And then also for fiscal year 24, intermediate maintenance is shown in blue. So about $1.2 million worth of work spread out across the city. I kind of liked showing it with last year's work to just show how much, of the city we touched. I would say this too, I mean, there's still work to be done. You've driven our streets, our residents, they know what their streets look like. We know there's a lot more work to be done, but we're making a dent, and we hope to continue moving forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Tim, on the Mark money, since they're doing all the bidding and everything, but we get to just, decide which streets are going to be
Yes.
repaired, correct? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right.
So the streets that we kind of focused on for that, so what they wanted were streets that didn't have a lot of concrete or sidewalk work to go along with them. So we kind of focused on downtown. So if you'll see the green, Harrison, Charlotte, kind of the downtown streets, those are being paid for with that Mark funds. North Krantz is on that. It's a street that doesn't have any curb and gutter. And then North Holmes, north of 72nd Street, is also on that list as well. But we provided them that list. That way they can move right into overlay and not have to do any sidewalk upgrades, any curb and gutter replacements, that type of thing. So it'll all be just mill and overlay.
Other questions for Director Nebercall? Thank you, Tim. We appreciate it. We are a tad bit late starting, so if everybody's ready, we'll just go ahead and start our regular meeting.
Yep.
Okay. I will call to order the Monday, May 8th meeting, the regular meeting of the Gladstone City Council. Thank everyone for being here. Madam Clerk, all council members are present. We have a quorum. I would ask that you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4 is approval of the agenda. Is there anyone on the council who wishes a change in the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we will move to item 5, which is the approval of the April 24th, 2023 closed city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Moore,
Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2023 closed city council meeting.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the closed city council meeting from April 24, 2023. Any changes or additions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
The minutes of the closed city council meeting from April 24, 2023 are approved. Item number 6 is approval of the April 24, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Moore,
Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2023 regular city council meeting.
Second?
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 24, 2023. Any changes or additions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes from the regular city council meeting of April 24 are approved. Item number 7 is a proclamation for National Police Week. I think Chief Ferris is going to join me for that.
Would you introduce the officers to us?
Yeah.
Sure. Officer here, Captain Gladstone. Yes. Officer Perez. Officer, oh my gosh, Miller. Corporal Hammond. Officer Jones. And Officer Lodge. And who wasn't here last year? 3 out of the crew produced last year,
Great.
and they're doing great.
Good job.
It's close.
Item number 8 on the agenda is a proclamation for Older Americans Month, and Sue Bacon, who's a board member of the Clay County Senior Services, is here to accept this proclamation. Whereas the city of Gladstone includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time, wisdom, and experience to our community. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas the city of Gladstone recognizes the need to create a community that offers the services and support older adults may need to make choices about how they age. And whereas the city of Gladstone can work to build an even better community for our older residents by not limiting our thinking about age, exploring and combating stereotypes, emphasizing the many positive aspects of aging, inspiring older adults to push past traditional boundaries, and embracing our community diversity. Now, therefore, I, E.B. Moore, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, on behalf of members of the Gladstone City Council and all Gladstone residents, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Older Americans Month. And we urge every resident to celebrate our older citizens, help to create an inclusive society, and accept the challenge of flexible thinking around it.
Thank you. On behalf of Clay County Senior Services, we appreciate our partnership with the City of Gladstone. We appreciate your efforts to make this a community for all ages.
Item number 9 is communications from the audience. This is a time we take every council meeting to invite members of the public to speak to the council about any topic not listed on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak this evening? No one? All right. We'll move to communications from the city council. We'll start with Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Moore. Last week was the 20th anniversary of the May 4th tornado that hit Gladstone and other areas of the Northland and the Kansas City area. I'm often thinking about how that first touchdown in our city at Inglewood and 169 lifted, hit down the Meadowbrook area just south of Meadowbrook School, lifted again, and then struck Carriage Hill area. That if that storm, which was an F3 to F4 tornado, had stayed on the ground, it would have just totally cut our city in half diagonally. And some vivid memories from that time speaks to how Gladstone's most tragic day probably turned into our finest hour. I remember the night, the most vivid scene ever. A good friend of mine went to high school with his son, Joe Palermo, who had some collateral damage to his house. Late at night, lights going everywhere. Everything was pitch dark, but there was smoke, and there was fire hydrants that were leaking water, and it was a scene out of a movie. This gentleman was walking down the street in a daze. Can't hardly believe what happened to his subdivision. From that came an effort that started with City Manager Kirk Davis and our Public Safety Department pulling out their their emergency operations manual and going through it step by step by step. And one thing I'll remember is, as Kirk was listing off things in the manual, our public safety officers in the room had already done it. It was check, 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 one right after another. And that was within the first 3 or 4 hours of the tornado having struck the city. And then from there, it just became this outpouring of community. Hundreds of volunteers, church groups, Gladstone Neighbors Helping Neighbors, led by former Mayor Art Hammond. Every single person that worked for this city had something to do with making those people feel like they were being taken care of. It was the most phenomenal effort. I'm sure everyone here was involved that you've ever seen. Many of those people that work for the city didn't see a day off for 10 days to 2 weeks, not because they were asked to, but because they asked if they could help. Former State Rep Scott Lakem was Insurance Commissioner in Missouri at that time. He came to Gladstone to hold a press conference to be sure that the insurance carriers knew the expectations of the insurance commissioner for taking care of the folks of Gladstone, and they did. But it was just this tremendous outpouring of community. Our public information officer at the time, who I'm still aggravated, he commandeered my interview with Katie Kirk, but he did the fabulous job, much better job than any of us could do. But it just made, I think the comment was made at the time, that the people who lost everything in Gladstone chose to rebuild in Gladstone, and I think that's why. Members of the council, I believe Bill Cross, Wayne Beer, Carol Rudy, and Joe Evans spent incredible number of hours out just trying to make people feel better. And then afterwards, the council took a proclamation to every one of the outside agencies that actually came to town to help us. And kind of my final memory, there's millions of them, was that, and I carry this notebook to this day, that National League of Cities was in Indianapolis the following year, and we were asked to give, city manager was asked to give presentations on how we actually handled that emergency in our community, because it was so well regarded for the efforts that started right here in this building with the most incredible city staff ever, and the most incredible public safety department ever, and the most incredible volunteer corps of human beings ever. And it was really made you proud to be a Gladstonian. And some of those folks asked a couple of us to stop by the other day, and that still live there. And they, trust me, after 20 years, they will be eternally grateful for everything this community did for them. That makes Gladstone Gladstone. It's important to remember the folks that did those good things. Thank you.
Mellons. That's a hard act to follow.
That was very good, Les. Thank you, Mayor. This past weekend, the Elks Lodge in Gladstone hosted their annual scholarship breakfast. A thank you is extended to Chief Ferris and Chief Desitels, our city manager, the city council for their support of this activity. It created funds that will be directly used to support scholarships for our Northland High School seniors. This past weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we raised over $11,000, and it is so true that Northland families care and Northland families share, and echoes just exactly what you were talking about. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councilman Garnos.
A lot of pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't top Councilman Smith's story, but I think we saw some of that same sense of community with the kickoff of the Glad Green team this last weekend. Wanted to congratulate you on that, but leave it at that so that you can talk about it.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Spalla.
Just one item, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate our new city manager, Bob Bear. Your first meeting this evening as the city manager, and I know that all 5 of us are really looking forward to working with you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, just to follow up on what Councilman Garnos mentioned, the Glad Green team got off on a smashing success last week. I'm really, really proud. We had nearly 20 volunteers on Wednesday and 20 volunteers on Saturday, who, the efforts on Wednesday were at M1 and, the Walmart area, and on Saturday we were in the downtown area. Everybody seemed to be so excited. Some people, a number of people in this very room participated, and I thank each of you for your efforts. Some people we had there both Wednesday and Saturday, Mr. Oldenbecken, thank you. But I'm very excited about this project, and I truly believe that we can make a difference in the beauty of this city by this program. So it's fun. It's just 2 hours, and it's going to be a great effort to really beautify Gladstone. So I'm so grateful for all the volunteers who took their time and effort, and will continue to make that a good program. So thanks to everyone. Mr. City Manager, your first outing.
First, actually, I have three things. First of all, thank you, Mayor. You're not giving yourself enough credit for organizing the green team. I've heard very positive things about it, and understand there's bags and bags of trash that were collected on both days. So, I also want to recognize Public Works and the Parks, Rec, and Cultural Arts departments. These last 2 weekends have been extremely busy for some of the city staff. With the city beautification event on April 28th and 29th, and then the brush drop-off and the touch truck events that actually happened last weekend. So hats off to Director Nebergall and Murky and their respective departments for putting those together. Those are great events, and I think we take for granted the amount of planning that goes into actually making those events very successful. And then finally, I want to mention that the Farmers Market opened last Saturday. And they'll be open on Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. From now until the end of October. So we'll encourage everybody to go see that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 12 we will move to, and that is the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please explain and read the consent agenda?
A consent agenda allows the City Council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the City Council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second and unanimous vote to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda. Consider special event permits. Dentistry for Children Patient Appreciation Day, Linden Square, Saturday, June 10th, 2023, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Law Enforcement National Night Out, Happy Rock Park East, Saturday, August 5th, 2023, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Restoration 5K Run and 1K Walk, Atkins Johnson Farm, Saturday, August 19th, 2023, 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. Consider financial report for 9 months ending March 31st, 2023.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Anyone on the council? Staff?
Mayor Moore.
Thank you, Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the consent agenda as it was presented.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda is approved. We will move to the regular agenda to item number 13, which is Resolution R-23-14, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with A.T. Switzer Painting Company, Incorporated, in the total amount not to exceed $95,000 for the Painting Competition Pool and Dive Well Project, CC 2453.
Mayor Moore.
Mayor Pro Tem Spallo.
I move to approve resolution number R-23-14.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution R-23-14. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution R-23-14 is approved. Item number 14 is resolution R-23-15, a resolution authorizing acceptance of work under contract with Turner Construction Company for the addition and renovation of Fire Station Number 2, and authorizing final payment in the amount of $13,170 for project CO2059.
Mayor Moore?
Councilman Smith?
Move to approve resolution R 23-15.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution R-23-15. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution R-23-15 is approved. Item number 15 is the first reading of bill number 23-19. This is an ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interests for certain municipal officials pursuant to the state of Missouri ethics law. I might pause here and ask our council to just give us a brief explanation for the benefit of our audience for this reading of this bill.
Thanks, Mayor. This ordinance is to allow the council to adopt a program for disclosure of conflicts of interest. A state law was passed back in 1991 that allows cities to do this. If you don't do this, you're subject to the extensive, painful process that's outlined in the state statutes, and I'm not aware of any city that elects to go that route. So we have, I think, since 1991, as virtually all other cities, adopted this same ordinance, which is based on a model ordinance prepared by the Missouri Municipal League.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Mayor Moore?
Councilman Mellons?
I move to place bill number 23-19 on its first reading.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to place bill number 23-19 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 23-19 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
An ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials pursuant to the state of Missouri ethics law.
Mayor Moore?
Councilman Mellons?
I move to accept the first reading bill number 23-19, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 23-19, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 23-19 on its second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 23-19, an ordinance of the City of Gladstone, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials pursuant to the state of Missouri ethics law.
Mayor Moore?
Councilman Mellons?
I move to accept the second and final reading of bill number 23-19 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.638.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second reading of bill number 23-19 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.638. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Mellon?
Aye.
Councilman Garnis?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Spello?
Aye.
Mayor Moore?
Aye. Bill number 23-19 stands enacted as ordinance 4.638. Item number 16, other business. Is there other business to be brought before the council this evening?
Mayor Moore, can I just, one thing I forgot.
Certainly.
Sorry. Just people in the room who were here 20 years ago that had a lot to do with that. I think, Bob, you were here. Brian, were you here then? Brian Boydson? Alan, I know you were because you caught grief a couple of times for not letting folks back in their house until you proved to them that it was about to fall down. But is there anyone else here that helped Everett? Were you probably volunteering back then? Okay, well, darn. But, and just in case there were any others, I didn't want that to go. No. Tim, I don't think you may not have been born yet. Anyway, that's all. Thank you. They deserve the recognition.
Any other business to be brought before the council? If not, we stand adjourned.